Welcome back, everyone. The final TVP starts now. This is a rematch from how we started the evening out. Hours ago, Maru defeated Classic 2-1. It kind of christened the entire series with our first amazing set. We've had a bunch of games that have been incredible since then. The question now is, can Classic actually come back and defeat Maru? Or does Maru just have a handle on this matchup and once again get deeper and deeper into a GSL?
It seemed like Maru just kind of had the answer to this slower defensive style that Classic has been playing. And he plays it in kind of a unique way. We saw in Alcyone when he went for a really big control play, pulling, what, 10+ SCVs into the middle of the map to build turrets, to build sensor towers, to repair Vikings. And he was just kind of able to bounce from that position and basically take on all the extra bases until Classic walked into a nuke and died. I don't think we're going to see the nuke again, but even the nuke notwithstanding, I mean, Maru's game plan at dealing with Classic's very passive style was just exceptional. He was able to keep up tempo in terms of macro. He never really fell behind. He didn't fall into the trap that it felt like ByuN kind of did in terms of overextending with harassment or aggressive options.
Yeah. Well, ByuN's style, sometimes it just backfires. Like, in one game, he just had like 10 brains in a tank in the middle of the map. Well, that's not it. It just got killed off, and then he had to shrink into his base for the rest of the game.
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, Classic has been looking stronger as the night's been carrying on, and Maru is fresh off of a defeat against Hero, so we'll see if there's some adjustments that perhaps Classic has made. Maybe Classic's going to be able to ride the momentum from the previous set into this one. Maru, you know, potentially the hands a little cold here as he had to wait for ByuN to get dispatched by Classic. And guys, we're going into the final match. Alcyone, map number 1, Maru versus Classic.
Okay, Maru in the bottom left, Classic in the top right. One other thing I wanted to mention, I was going to say it before the game, but we're already in the game now. The Maru is very good at changing it up in rematches of best of 3. It's a lot of times whatever data is thrown out from him doesn't really matter because he can change up his playstyle so much. I was almost wondering if he was going to do a proxy to start this off, but he didn't do it.
Could be something we see from him in this series, though. Or is one of those players that has been through championship after championship and is not afraid to proxy, even on the biggest of stages. Ladder
anxiety, my only anxiety.
It's not my only anxiety, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Did you ever get ladder anxiety at all?
So this is funny, but when I used to play full time, I never had it whatsoever. But the first time I came back and started playing after having not played for a couple of years, I felt anxious because I was like, I'm losing to people that if I just kept playing, I would have been way better than
that's
in the
worst.
Past, you know? And
yeah, I've had it where I come back and I'm like, no.
I didn't have it to the point where it made me not play the game or not play ladder, but it did stress me out. I was a bit tilted.
What about tournament anxiety? Did you ever get that?
I got that really bad.
I got that so bad.
I got that very
bad. Oh my God.
I was one of those players
I was like a crazy person.
I was one of those players that, I mean, I was on a pro team. I was on a couple pro teams before, but when I was here in Prime, when Prime was competing in StarCraft 2 Pro League, I was one of those players that would do really well in the in-house ladder rankings where we do the private tournaments.
Right.
That would put me in a spot in Pro League, and then I would go to Pro League and just get completely smashed. I would get so nervous on stage. I don't know, I never got over that. Even today, because I play some other RTS games and I compete in tournaments sometimes just for fun, because I love RTS, you know, and I'm maybe a little bit too old now for StarCraft 2. Not as good as I used to be, but even now, like if I play against Marine Lord in a game, I'm going to be like, well, there's like a couple thousand people watching me probably lose here. This is going to suck.
This is not a good feeling.
So, I mean, it's something I can deal with, but I've never really been able to get over that hump. I think that's true for a lot of people. I think
you just get good at feeling anxious and playing well.
Yeah,
it's like you just kind of deal with that.
I mean, some people are just gamers too. Like they can just handle the pressure.
Yeah.
But even in StarCraft 2 nowadays, there are a lot of pro players that will perform really well online, and then they go to like an offline stage, and they're like kind of struggle a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk to the GSL players here, you know, because we have a lot of the same people over and over. A lot of them say they just don't get nervous at all.
Yeah, but
because they've done it so many times.
But even then, I mean, playing from home is so much easier. Remember, I think it was a GSL or two ago. It was during monsoon season when Gumiho played, and the trains got flooded. He couldn't come to the studio, and he won his group, and he apologized in his interview to the other players because he got to play from home.
Right.
And that is an advantage. You know, you're comfortable, no stage, no anxiety in that situation.
Right.
Anyway, pretty middle-of-the-road openings coming out for both these guys. Classic is going back to his bread-and-butter Stargate opening, this time with an Oracle, not a Phoenix, into a robotics facility. And Maru is playing quite passive himself, was able just to deal with the early game adept. Not taking too much damage, just a little bit of bruised on one Marine, and about as standard as it gets here in terms of opening. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Maru throw down a third command center after the second barracks at some point. Just play a bit more of a macro game. Now he is going to go for a Widow Mine drop here. I'm wondering whether the Oracle is going to cross paths with that. They will be close on the bottom right side of the map. But if this goes unscouted, there is a pretty good chance that Maru is able to get something done with this.
Yeah, he is going to go by, does not get spotted. 2 Widow Mines in the medevac. Marines slowly crawling across the map. A Raven being produced. And we really need to watch where the Widow Mines go and how well they perform here to tell how well this whole thing is going to go.
Instantly gets spotted there by Classic. Nice reaction time. Maru's going to burrow and burrow and try and buy as much time as he possibly can here in the main base.
Yeah, a pretty good move, honestly. To leave one and just keep burrowing and unburrowing and just basically buy out enough time. We've got the Oracle coming in here and already getting a couple kills on these SCVs. I don't see anything to defend at all right now. He might have to chuck an auto turret down, yeah, just to try to drive this out. But of course, the Oracle could just switch to the main.
I am shocked at how much damage these Oracle's been getting done in PvTs today. And look at this, there's no he's not even pulling the SCVs away. There's no response from Maru. 8 SCVs in total going down, almost 9. I gotta start opening Oracle.
I'm looking. What's weird, right?
We rarely see it.
We know that they get this unit.
Uh-huh.
So a decent amount of kills there. 8 SCVs wiped.
I mean,
compared
so
to
much,
the 1 probe killed there.
So much better than the Widow Mine opening that Maru went for. I mean, Maru got a little bit more idle time, but 8 SCVs is 8 SCVs. That matters a lot more than just the idle time. And we actually have the additional 2 barracks coming down here for Maru, so he is not gunning for that third base. Instead, going to be Interference Matrix, a second Raven, Siege Tanks in production, and probably a +1 stim timing here on 2 bases. Now, we have seen Classic defend these kind of pushes quite well so far today against ByuN, but I don't think any of the builds that ByuN went for were going to converge on a point like Maru's is in terms of power. This is going to be a little bit stronger than the pushes that Classic had to deal with in the past, but
yeah,
so far the early game for Classic has been really good. And oh my goodness, catching these 2 Cyclones too.
Yeah,
they
almost got it. Oh,
they almost got the Oracle.
That was sick. Yeah, I was going to say, I was so confident he was going to get that. So yeah, there's going to be a lot. It's going to pack much more punch when it's time to finally move out here. It is going to be hitting as the third base is finishing for Protoss. So there should be an organic vulnerability here as Maru's powered up and Classic is focused on growth. The growth won't have kicked in yet for Classic as the push comes out.
Yeah, no third base at all here for Maru. He is heavily invested in this
I actually thought
attack.
This is what ByuN's play was going to look like, to be honest, today.
Yeah, me too. I think I like this style of approach a little bit more than the harassment style that ByuN went for, especially in game 1 of that series. But at the same time, Classic is really building up an army that is good against this. This is only 2 siege tanks. Maru perhaps respecting the Phoenix a little bit too much, and the Colossus count is going to be 3, I think, by the time Maru gets cross-map with Thermal Lance. I think I might have even seen Maru, or not Maru, but Classic Q +1 air weapons there, as he does maybe not know
I think
this is coming. He has the Fleet Beacon in production.
I think he's playing like this is the previous game, and this is not. This is going to be a hit that is going to possibly be a fatal blow for Classic. He's going to gun down. Oh, well, he almost guns that down. The stun remains.
Siege tank there with the scan should be able to take it out. It's a scary time right now for Classic. Maru is stimming forward. 2 siege tanks immediately get taken out. Or Colossi, excuse me. But the shield battery is doing a lot of work right here, repairing in the front. Maru eventually to be able to focus fire it down, but that was a really expensive trade, and he didn't get too much done for it.
All 3 of the Colossi are still here. Reinforcements are coming, but Protoss has what Protoss needs right now.
Still, there isn't a lot of support for the Colossi. Yes, the Colossi are alive, But how do you get the Stalkers in range to deal with the Vikings? Maru's going to slowly encroach this position. There is no more battery overcharge. It's really just the Colossi here for Classic, and as Maru starts to tighten his grip in the sky and inch closer and closer, especially with turrets and bunkers. While the initial fight was really good for Classic, the staying power here for Maru is intense.
There's 2 Tempests about to come out here. Right now, there's Liberators being made. I think ideally you'd want to have some more Vikings to try to, hard counter the Tempest in that number. The push is going to come back out again. The damage is basically being evenly spread on each of the Colossi, which is never good. But the Stalker count gets too low. The Tempest comes out, but I think Terran has too much.
I mean, the Vikings alone can deal with the Tempest at this stage. No overcharge even. One of the Tempests is going to get picked off there by the Vikings. And there just really isn't any support for the Colossi. This army that Classic has on the ground right now, it cannot break this position. It's good at defending against ByuN, but the siege tanks with the bunkers, especially with the Viking support, I'm not sure how Classic is going to be able to breach this. And I mean, even the Vikings coming here on the right side, you can't mine from that base. And Maru has the better 2-base economy right now.
Yeah. I wouldn't even mind seeing Maru trying to drop into the main here. He's going to come down, he's going to wipe out this base over here. All Maru has to do now is make a 3rd command center and play from ahead.
I don't even know if he needs a 3rd command center. I mean, he's throwing it down. We can see that on the mini-map, but there is a chance that Maru could just go for a killing blow right now.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay, the Tempests are trying to get some damage in here. The Vikings can come out and start to hit that. Again, the Tempests can retreat to the safety of the Stalkers.
And not all of the Vikings are here together. And actually, Maru's going to try and get out of this position.
He's basically just going to have some of the Marauders stay. They get killed off. Everything else gets to escape.
Yeah, and the 3rd command center is already done for Maru. He's going to lift this up, start mining way faster than Classic will on his 3rd base as the Nexus only just now goes down.
And he could probably wind up for another attack in a second here.
I think so. Classic is going to have to rely really heavily on the Tempest to try and get something done. He's going for +2 air weapons. 2 more Tempests are coming out. But the ground army here for Protoss is very weak. On a 2-base economy, you cannot support a lot of gateway production and also the 2 chrono-boosted Stargates pumping out Tempest at this rate.
Yeah.
So up until that 3rd and 4th base get running here for Classic, it's really just going to be the high-tech units that he's relying on. And so if Maru comes again with another timing, it could be very deadly here for Classic, but for now, Maru is content to play ahead. And 2 more Tempest. How many does he have on the map right now? I mean, it must be so high, the count. He's making 2 more. He's going to go up to 9 Tempest here.
Yeah, another attack in over here. I mean, it is possible for Classic to recover from this.
Oh, yeah, I think he has a good chance, but...
Well, now you could see, I mean, he's going to be forced to pull back here. It really makes you appreciate how slow Tempests are, by the way. Moments like that where he sets that up. So Maru's going up onto 4 bases. He's got enough Vikings that, like, he can basically take the Tempest head on. Maybe he needs a little bit more Vikings, but he's getting close.
I think not anymore. I mean, there are so many Tempests on the map right now.
Yeah, he might need to actually get a 2nd starport down here.
It just started producing Vikings, I believe. So we do have a good number, 15 in total to the 9 Tempests. Again, I feel like Classic should be mixing in Oracles with these compositions. They pair so well with a Tempest.
Well, if you could just tag the units, you know what you're up against. It's like having a little mini map hack here.
I feel like he would be able to take much better trades here against these Vikings, but for now, just stutter step micro. One of the Tempests do fall, but the Vikings are taking a real big beating. Overcharge right here in the front.
Okay, he's going to hit that 1 Colossus. It barely lives. That's insane.
I mean, the Tempests are doing their job. They are dealing with the Vikings for now. It's 14 Vikings to 7 Tempests, but as that Viking production continues, eventually there's going to be enough. Then Classic's army beyond the Colossi doesn't really have any staying power in terms of overall damage. It's basically just Colossus Tempest at this stage. I wouldn't even mind Classic starting to mix in, maybe more Blink Stalkers or getting in some carriers, because the pure Tempest, especially without an Oracle, eventually the Vikings are just going to be better at fighting. It is kind of the same dynamic as a Corruptor. Is the anti-air unit is going to win this situation eventually. They just have a little bit more firepower.
Well, Maru continues to grow. He's going to reach out onto that gold base. and you know it's a different game than what they played before, but there's a lot of the same ideas. The dilemma for the Protoss is it's harder to take any bases closer to the middle, and the middle has a lot of the high-value bases to begin with.
Maru stimming forward. That is a lot of Vikings right now. One of the Colossus is going to get taken out. Battery overcharge again over here on the right side. Second Colossus falls. There's only 2 Colossus remaining.
Yeah, now just one more north of this. The Viking count is so high, I don't think the Tempest can hang.
No, they can't. A lot of them getting picked off right here. This has been a big win for Maru thus far as the Siege Tanks and the Marauders coming in. And the start of this fight, Classic had the better army supply, but Vikings are the answer.
Yeah, clearly GG. Maru takes the first game. And, you know, I got to say, I don't often see Vikings like one-shot Tempests or Colossi, but today is that day, apparently. Again, Classic, it's funny. Versus ByuN, he looks untouchable. Versus Maru, it looks like it's a bad technique.
Well, it felt like every single game he played against ByuN, you count the starport units, and
yeah,
they're dismally low. And then you go against Maru, and he adds the second starport really quickly. He's reactoring out Vikings nonstop. His army on the ground, he had almost no bio at the end of that. It was just a small group of units, a couple of siege tanks left over from the earlier push. He was investing so many resources in just expanding his economy, getting his upgrades, getting his Vikings. And Classic was so reliant on the Tempest that as soon as they get countered by the Vikings, especially because he can't kite them across the map, everything just completely falls apart. There's no more DPS.
It was pretty crazy. It's also like, you know, oh, actually, our game's going to start. I'll talk about that in a second. Guys, this is game number 2, Maru versus Classic. The best of 3 continues on. Maru beat Classic the first time. Question is, can Classic come back in the revenge match? So far, not looking like it. Maru wins 1 more game. He moves on. Classic has to win 2 more, and he will advance to the round of 4. Okay, in the bottom right is Maru, and the top left is Classic. What I was going to say before the game started is that a lot of times, like, you're making this unit, and they're going to try to counter that with this unit, but then you're ready to counter that thing with this. What's funny is the way Maru approaches the Colossus play is to just start to bank Vikings, and that counters both the Colossus and the Tempest. So it's like this funny situation where it feels like whatever Classic appears to think that he's getting ready to, you know, counteract, it's totally muted.
I feel like if Classic is mixing in Oracles, then he's going to take better trades against these Vikings. I feel like every single series he's going for this Tempest, he's not going for the late game Oracle.
Yeah, I agree with you, because if you can just tag, well, first of all, with an Oracle, once you tag something the first time, if you're good, you just keep tagging it for the rest of the game.
It's really hard to continuously tag Vikings because of their long range, but still, if you're just able to get vision of it, the fact that you can micro with the Tempest, I mean, that is where you get the value with the Tempest, is the long range. And the straight up fight,
well, also, then you know how much they have. Like you'll watch unless I guess you could go to like some crazy metagame stuff where then they don't have their Vikings merge up with the group for a little bit to give some false info. But normally you just see the Vikings kind of meet up, and then you could tell, okay, he's making 2 at a time, 4 at a time, 6 at a time. You know, just you have an idea of the tempo of the Viking development, and so you can try to match it or outdo it, or completely duck it and go to, I don't know, you know, abandon the Tempest play for something else.
Yeah, but let's not forget that Classic in that push kind of got hamstringed by the early aggression on the 3rd base, and then the 4th base also went down. So it was kind of like he was trying to hold on with one hand behind his back. He was able to retain the high-tech units like the Colossi and the Tempest, but the economy wasn't there to eventually get Storm or mix in the Mothership, or, I mean, the Blink was really late there, and he didn't have the money for the Stalkers or the Gateway Explosion.
Right.
He didn't have the money to go into a Warp Prism and go for counter-harassment, so he just kind of got locked into this position where he just had to keep making Tempest to try and survive. I feel like if Classic is able to navigate the early and the mid-game a little bit better here in game number 2, if he wants to play the same style, then there is a chance that he's able to survive. And I don't think it'll look like him just amassing Tempests. It'll be a much more nuanced army with a lot of variety, a lot more counterplay against the Vikings. And that's the reason why his first series against Maru was so close, is because he was able to develop that way. But Maru in game number 1 already throwing a wrench in that system with the early siege tank push. Now here in game 2, going double gas with a late expansion. So looking to be shaping up for another game with relatively early aggression.
Yeah, this time it's going to be Phoenix's. Now, Maru with the 2-base play, I don't think he cycles that back in again in the best of 3. I feel like that's he went for the 2-base style because in their first game he went for 3-base, and so basically Classic wasn't ready. Now Classic didn't die to the push initially, but he lost his bases and Maru got the game to where it needed to be so he could close it out. So what does he do this time? Does he go back into the macro style again? You know, if we do have that eventuality of carriers, it does seem like Maru already knows how to deal with that. So he should have like all the tools necessary to hang.
I think we might have Maru actually going for a siege tank push again. He's making the Liberators. It's a very early tech lab on the factory.
Well, it's a much earlier push.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that's going to be it. So it's not going to be like a turtle 2-base power push. It's like almost a rush.
Right. We'll see, though. Classic has been kind of slow in taking his 3rd base, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He's doing it very safely. He's making sure that he has his robotics facility pumping out Immortals, getting the robotics bay, getting a pretty sizable army up before that 3rd goes down. He is not trying to rush it by any means, but that could be a good thing for him against Maru's play, especially considering he's already throwing down the robotics bay here on 2 bases. But this push for Maru has a lot of aggressive potential. Keep in mind, this was double gas before expansion, so it's going to hit faster than usual. The tech is, you know, a step ahead of where it would normally be, and you can see that in the Workers tab, 45 probes to 30 SCVs, and here we go.
Oh, the boys have been pulled.
Viking production already begun, by the way, behind this, so we're going to have a Liberator, 2 or 3 siege tanks reinforcing.
Dude, is there anything Maru can't do? Oh, my God. And you know it's bad when right as the attack's coming in, a Nexus starts. So he pumps the brakes for a second to let the SCVs catch up. The SCVs are here to soak the damage. The medevac is also here to hide the tanks in it, so suddenly you realize what you're in for here is Classic.
All right, that force field there start. Oh man, those siege tank shots really valuable right at the beginning. The sentry already goes down. Stalker goes down as well. Ton of damage getting levied here, and Maru's just gonna slowly push forward in this position. I wouldn't even be surprised to see him drop down a bunker.
Oh, I don't know if he should be going in with this when there's already a disruptor out here. This feels like a really bad overextension, and it's just these Immortals. One goes down, the other's going to fall in a second. The disruptor's going to come out, but I think it's too late. I think Classic should have waited. It's going to get unpowered.
Yeah, I think that might just be it. I mean, Maru just...
Oh,
like,
my God.
You're going to go for the same thing again, aren't you, Classic?
Yeah.
I know exactly what to do.
He's got a million different ways to kill a Protoss. Maru shelling this Nexus. I just don't think that there's a mathematically, you know, a number of units that Classic can muster to deal with this.
I don't think so, man. Maru shows us in the first series how to do it in the macro way, and here in the second series, does it with 2 base timing pushes. This one a lot more aggressive than the last. And Maru is going to go to another top 4. GG, Classic taps out.
Great game. Again, Maru reasserts why he is the GOAT. Now, look, he still could win this GSL.
Yeah.
You know, there was a period where it's like, uh-oh, maybe Maru is going to get eliminated here. But again, only Hero can do that. They're not going to be facing each other unless it's going to be in the finals. But could we have a G8L?
Maybe.
An 8SL? How do we call this?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll let the people online decide that.
Yeah.
Maru did look really good, though, in the second series, and Classic, you see him shaking his head a little bit on stage.
Well,
the first series with Maru, it was epic. It was really close. And I think Maru is like, man, it's already almost 10:30. I want to go home. Let's speed run this thing. Cleans it up with some really tight timing pushes. I mean, the first one set the stage there in game number 1. It didn't end the game outright, but it put Classic in this position where he was just basically stuck making Tempest. Couldn't hold on. Maru knew it. Went for the follow-up push on, what is this, 5 bases? And just obliterates him with a Viking count. And then in game number 2, Classic, maybe a little bit lax there on the scouting, was expecting Maru to do something a bit more passive, and Maru hits with One of the strongest timing pushes you can possibly hit with. If you want to build to grind the ladder with, this is it in TVP. This thing is absolutely fierce.
Yeah, Maru's always been so good at having, like, just looking at what somebody else is doing and going, oh, you're exactly weak at this moment. And this is the right number of SCVs to take. And this is what I'm not going to make just more medevacs. This is what I'm going to make this unit or that unit. Really impressive. I do think Classic could have handled that better. I think when you have a disruptor making you buy time, you don't attack in. Oh, go ahead.
All right, interview with Maru. Congratulations, Maru. He says thank you. Well, tonight's series, you've been playing a lot of TVP today. The final match against Classic. Your timings felt perfect in those two games. Was that prepared or was that on the fly? And Maru says it was a spontaneous decision in the second series to go for these timing attacks. So you already played against Classic in the first match and you rematched him in the final match. After the first match, did you get to figure out how to deal with his playstyle in PBT? What changes did you make in your approach? Maru's like, yeah, I basically found this solution and how to deal with a push, so that's why I went for the timing pushes there in the second series. The all-in play is that builds Kryptonite. So we just had a new patch. This is your first matches after the patch. How are you feeling about it? And Maru says that he feels like Widowmines have been nerfed a ton, but he hasn't gotten to play a lot of games on the new patch. So it feels like you were able to figure out that Classic is just going to kind of focus in on Colossi and Sky Toss here. How did you deal with that style? Maru says, well, when I found out that he's also going to mix in a bunch of carriers with that play, it's kind of a hard situation to deal with, so. Didn't actually catch the very end of that. They're asking now, you lost a hero 2-0. But you were smiling a little bit after you lost to him. What was your thought process there? And Maru was like, well, I just kind of admitted to myself he played better than me. He played really well in that series, so I just kind of laughed it off. Well, you made it to another semifinals, Maru. You're going to face the first place player from Group B. Who out of Group B do you want to match against? And he says he wants to play against Stats. He wants another TVP. And he does not want to play against Shin. That is who he wants to avoid. Well, Stats and I actually have been practicing a lot in practice games. And Stats have been defeating me in a lot of games, so I would like to actually beat him here on the tournament stage and get that redemption from practice. And Maru says, I have a tough path forward to the finals now that I have to face the first place player from the other group. So, also, I want to thank everybody here in the audience and watching online who stuck with us. It's been a long day. We appreciate you sticking with us all the way to the end. And cheer for me in the semifinals and finals. I hope to show good games for my fans, yada, yada, yada. But really an excellent day. I love that we got no mirrors, just nothing but TVP after a patch that was designed to focus on TVP, because the series were really exceptional. I enjoyed from start to finish, even the Maru 2-base plays. I love that. I mean, the range of games that we got today was just really fun to watch.
This is why Maru is so good. It's like he really is able to do all the things that you can do with Terran. Like, and no disrespect to Classic here, but like you see Classic kind of trying to get this one idea to, this one shape to fit through every hole, where Maru is basically just kind of downloading it and figuring it out and looking at it from different angles, and it's cool.
Yeah, he said that in the interview. He's like, yeah, it wasn't something that I planned. It was just a build that I did on the fly because I basically figured out what the answer was to his style in the first series.
Okay, so that's going to be that. We have Hero and Maru. Maybe we get a Hero-Maru finals, by the way, and who knows, man, maybe Hero can once again come out on top.
Would be a lot of fun.
We're going to be back next week with Stats, Shin, Cure, and Gumiho.
Yeah, who are your favorites here in this group? Because Shin, he's been looking really solid. He's the only Zerg here in the top 8. I'm sad we don't have at least another Zerg along here with him, but
yeah,
he looked very good in his group.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird, right? Like, we just have so many other Zergs that have always dominated the space, and Shin, formerly known as Ragnarok, by the way, guys. We've seen him for a long time, but it's like, yeah, now he's the only Zerg here? That's kind of wild.
I feel like Ragnarok has just been quietly getting really, really good over the past couple of years.
By the way, guys, if you want to come down, you have to buy the ticket online. So far, our studio has not filled up. I believe they let you buy it if you get to the studio on your phone, but ideally, buy it ahead of time. The closer we get to the finals, the more full the studio is. We're across the street from the fire department. They will not let us go beyond the capacity. Yeah. So I know many of you are flying in and out of Korea. This is like a big tourist destination. If you're going to come down to the GSL, buy it in advance. How much is it? It's like $5 or $10
it's
or something.
Cheap. They should be charging more, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
This show is too good.
That's right. Tickets are $40. Leave the money at the caster desk.
That's our Patreon.
That's right.
But yeah, the finals probably going to sell out. I mean, it is the GSL finals.
The finals always sell out.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, we're going to put some more chairs in here, but it is still a small studio, so
yeah,
get those tickets as early as you possibly can. And before then, we have next week on Thursday, same time, same place, 6:30 p.m. KST.
Yeah.
We're going to have the round of 8 for Group B, which should be also a lot of fun. I think Shin and Kira are probably my favorites to advance from that one, but Stats has been looking really good. It's going to be a fun day.
Stats is kind of fun to have him back here, and it does seem like we're having a lot more Protosses try this like more conservative, passive style. So maybe he can.
Everybody but Hero. He's still.
Yeah, Hero's still doing crazy
stuff. He's a caveman. I love him.
Yeah, he's our Ooga Booga Protoss god.
He just wants to kill him.
He's our Ooga Booga Protoss king.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's all the time we have, guys. Thank you for joining us. We love you. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. Bye-bye.
Incoming transmission.